Finn looked at Noah, the tension between them palpable. I really like you, Noah, Finn confessed, their voice unwavering. The kind of like where I want to spend my whole life with you. How's that? Is that good enough? Noah's smirk deepened, his eyes unreadable. You really don't know when to give up, huh? Finn pressed on. Yeah, but does loving someone qualify as a reason to kill me? No, Noah replied flatly, a trace of something darker lingering in his tone. You're a terrible liar, though. Finn laughed bitterly.
Oh, well.
Guess I just suck at not wanting to die. My father was right. I'm pretty much useless. If you don't leave your dad, you'll end up dead anyway, Noah warned. No, I won't, Finn said with quiet defiance. He's a coward. The memory of that fateful day by the river surfaced. Finn broke the silence. You could have gone ahead with your plan then, you know? Noah shook his head. If you died like that, it would have been pointless. No one would have noticed. At least if you're murdered, people will talk. You'd be in the papers, on the news, a lasting proof that you existed. There was an odd calmness in Noah's perspective on death. To him, it was art, a raw, desperate beauty in those final moments where life clung to its last thread. And, strangely, Finn found solace in Noah's morbid musings. Noah, you're a god to me, Finn admitted. Noah's cold gaze softened briefly. You must live, Finn. Be free. Find purpose. Travel. Feel every emotion and cherish people and things. Only then will you understand life's worth. And I, as promised, will have the pleasure of ending it all for you, in the most exquisite way imaginable. Noah's voice echoed in Finn's mind. Was this Noah's influence or their own thoughts? His philosophies shaped Finn's reality, forming an almost divine bond. But Noah's words carried a warning: live or perish. Isaac's presence was unsettling. He mimicked Noah with eerie precision, from his mannerisms to his calculated violence. Yet, unlike Noah, there was a trace of humanity in Isaac's eyes, hesitation and emotion that Noah never possessed. Isaac, however, had his secrets. Finn knew Isaac had a purpose tied to Noah. Revenge? Obsession? It didn't matter. Finn had their own goal: to end this cycle of manipulation and killings. Isaac was a Noah, no matter how perfectly he copied him. And Finn would use that knowledge to survive. With a final resolve, Finn stepped out, ignoring the risks. As they walked, they murmured to themselves, I just have to fake it a little longer, just until Noah shows up. Then this ends. Finn's gaze fell on a tulip display. Flowers have meanings, you know, they said softly, their voice laced with both melancholy and determination. Scott sighed as he looked around, shaking his head. Geez, we searched everywhere and the flower shop was right by the station this whole time. As he stepped inside, the scent of fresh flowers greeted him. A cheerful shopkeeper looked up from arranging bouquets. Hello, sir. Flowers for your wife. Scott chuckled. No, I'm not married. Actually, I'm here for something else. My name's Scott. I'm a detective. Do you own this shop? The young man hesitated, shifting nervously. And no, I just work here. I'm new, and, we just relocated to this area. Scott nodded, his tone casual but probing.
I see.
So the shop only recently opened here? Yeah, the man replied, fidgeting. From what I know, this place moves around a lot. Really? Do you know where it's been before? Scott asked, leaning slightly forward. And do you have access to order records from over 2 months ago? The worker shook his head apologetically. Sorry, I've only been here a month. The owner handles all that. Is the owner around? Can I speak to him? He's out right now, but he should be back soon. You can wait if you'd like, the man stammered, then quickly added. I swear I'm not covering for him or anything. Scott raised an eyebrow. You've been helpful so far. Why would I suspect you of anything? The man bit his lip. I don't know, sir. Did my boss do something? Scott stayed silent, his sharp gaze making the man squirm. After a pause, the worker continued. To be honest, there's something odd about him. Another guy came in earlier, asking about him. 2. Funny thing, it was the same guy who visited when we were by the amusement park. Scott perked up. What happened back then? Well, the worker hesitated. My boss gave me a strange request. He said a woman with brown hair, brown eyes, wearing a white dress, and holding a teddy bear would visit. He told me to give her tulips for free. Did she show up? Scott asked, his curiosity piqued. She did, but she wasn't alone. She came with a guy, probably her boyfriend. So I made an excuse, saying the tulips were being thrown out. The worker leaned closer, lowering his voice. Honestly, my guess? My boss and that woman are having an affair.
Crazy, right?
Scott's expression darkened. This guy who came earlier, does he have blue hair? The man nodded quickly.
Yeah.
Blue hair, blue eyes, tall and, kind of handsome. Wait, do you know him? Did he hire you, or something? Scott's jaw tightened. That's definitely Isaac, he thought grimly. What's he up to now? The shopkeeper continued, oblivious to Scott's tension. You know, tulips in that color aren't very common. Flowers have meanings, you know? Giving someone tulips is a simple way to express how you feel. Scott muttered under his breath, half distracted. Interesting. I wonder what those tulips really mean. The shopkeeper smiled, oblivious. Tulips generally mean perfect and deep love, but their meaning can vary depending on the color. Some meanings even have historical significance. Scott offered a tight-lipped smile. That's insightful. Maybe putting meaning into things is more important than I thought. The shopkeeper chuckled. Or a great marketing strategy, huh? Scott gave a non-committal nod, but his thoughts were far away. What are you playing at, Isaac? And what's the connection to those tulips? Finn tried to muster a smile as the florist spoke enthusiastically. It's fascinating. I'd love to learn more about it. My shop is just around the corner. Feel free to visit anytime. He nodded politely. All right, Mr. Florist. Nice meeting you. I'm Finn. The florist gave a warm smile. Nice meeting you too. Name's Dale. Finn's chest tightened as he took the flowers he'd ordered. His heart raced, and a sick feeling churned in his stomach. I couldn't recognize him as Noah from his face alone, he thought, his mind whirling. But those eyes, his eye color matches. My memory's still hazy, but it's the same. His gaze lingered on Dale's hands. The scars on his palms confirmed his suspicion. Finn remembered that night vividly, how Noah's violent stabbing had caused the knife's handle to break, and his hands had slipped onto the blade. The bleeding was frantic, and they'd done everything to hide the injury. He even straight up said he's left-handed. Was that a test? Finn wondered. Or maybe he's pretending to be someone else, a new identity. That would explain why he's bold enough to approach me in public, even with a restraining order. But then his thoughts shifted. No, I might be jumping to conclusions. The flower thing can't be a coincidence, though. I need to investigate first. Fear crept over him, an old, familiar dread he hadn't felt in years. It was suffocating, pressing down on his chest like physical pain. What's wrong with me? Finn thought bitterly. I wanted this. I wanted to see him again. A voice jolted him back to reality.
Finn.
Are you okay? What are you doing here? It was Isaac. His presence, like always, calmed Finn's nerves. I just twisted my ankle, Finn lied, forcing a shaky smile. Isaac frowned, concern etched across his face. Are you hurt? Why didn't you wait for me? It's not safe for you to go out alone. I'm fine, Finn murmured, though his trembling hands betrayed him. Sorry, I was about to text you. Isaac sighed, his tone softening. I didn't mean to raise my voice. I'm just worried. Where were you headed? Let me go with you. To Scott's house, Finn admitted. I wanted to check if he's okay, and drop off some food. Isaac's eyebrows furrowed. He's not a kid, Finn. You don't have to take care of him like this. Besides, he's probably working. How do you plan to get in? Not a problem, Finn replied quietly. I know his door passcode. Isaac hesitated, studying Finn's expression. Why do I get the feeling you have another reason for going there? Isaac sighed as he picked up Scott's laundry. He's so busy, he can't even toss his clothes into the baskets? Finn glanced over, shrugging. Hey, don't be too hard on him. He's dealing with a serial murder case. Laundry isn't exactly a priority right now. Ugh, fine, Isaac grumbled. I can't believe I'm doing chores for my girlfriend's crush. Finn smirked. While you're at it, might as well do the dishes. There aren't many in the sink.
What?
I have to do that too? Isaac exclaimed. Am I being punished? Don't be so dramatic. You're the one who insisted on coming, Finn retorted. Isaac huffed. Of course I did. I want to make sure you're safe. But hold on, what are you going to do in there? Clean, Finn replied casually. You're lying, Isaac said, narrowing his eyes. I'll be quick, Finn assured him.
Do your best.
We can head home after. Isaac muttered under his breath. Has Finn always looked after that old guy like this? This is so irritating. He watched as Finn locked the door behind her. She's definitely snooping around. Meanwhile, Finn began searching through Scott's belongings. A note caught her eye, detailing a victim with multiple stab wounds. The report said 1 stab wound and a neck slice, she thought. Is this a different case?
What does second kill mean?
Her mind raced. Are there 2 killers? A copycat? An accomplice? The idea made sense. The 3rd victim was found at a construction site, unlike the others who were killed at home. Is someone trying to mislead the police? Finn's thoughts shifted. If Noah's involved, he might be using a scapegoat. And if Scott suspects me, I'll always be on his radar. Crap. Did I just make myself look guilty to him? Her chest tightened. Should I end this now before Noah gets caught?
Finn.
Isaac's voice interrupted her thoughts. Are you all right in there? Finn quickly composed herself. I'm fine. Let's go home. You sure? Isaac asked, his concern evident.
Yeah.
Let's go before anyone catches up to us, Finn replied, forcing a calm tone. As they walked out, Isaac asked, Oh, right. Weren't you picking up the police report? Did you get it? Yeah, Finn said. I left it at your apartment before I went looking for you. Isaac nodded. All right, let's head back. Back at the flower shop, Scott was greeted by a calm but slightly guarded man. My apologies for the wait, Detective, the man said. I wasn't expecting anyone today. No worries, Scott replied. I didn't plan to visit this shop specifically. I'm just wandering around looking at flower shops. So, you're the owners? That's right. My name's Dale. How can I be of service, detectives? Scott gave a small nod. I hope I'm not interrupting your business. I just have a few questions. Dale gestured around. Not at all. We're closing up anyway. I'm just tidying, so feel free to ask. I'll answer as best I can. Appreciate it, Scott said. I won't waste your time. I'm looking into a series of murders. You've probably seen it on the news. Dale's expression didn't falter. Right. I've heard about it. Sorry, though, I don't watch the news often. The detective stood across from Dale, his expression firm but calm. Don't worry about it. I just need you to confirm something for me, he began. Can you check if there was a purchase made around the state? The basket in question has a unique charm attached, so I thought it might have come from here. Dale glanced at the detective, then nodded. Yep, definitely ours. Whose idea was it to include charms in your products? It's quite unique, the detective asked, his tone more conversational now. That was my idea, actually, Dale said with a small smile. I make them myself. My mom taught me. There are so many competitors out there, so I thought it'd be a good way to stand out, you know? Do you guys offer delivery? We used to, Dale explained. But now we only accept pickup since we recently moved. The detective's face grew more serious. The girl in the video, the latest victim of the serial killings, do you recognize her? Can you find the purchase record for that basket? Dale hesitated. I can help in any way I can, but for this case, I'm sure we don't have a record. You're sure? Yeah, Dale paused, his voice dropping. Because I'm the one who sent those flowers to her. Later that evening, Isaac noticed Finn seemed unusually quiet. Are you going to be okay? You suddenly seem a bit down. Would you like me to stay over again tonight? Finn gave him a tired smile. Oh, don't worry about me. I'm just tired. I kind of want some alone time tonight. Is that okay? Of course, Isaac replied, though he couldn't hide his concern. Just make sure you get some good rest. Good night. I'll see you tomorrow. As he left, Isaac muttered to himself, Geez, What's wrong with her all of a sudden? I'm not sure if she's mad at me, or if it's just, that time of the month. Girlfriends are so complicated. Meanwhile, Finn was typing a message. Hey, Scott. You might scold me for trespassing again, but I'm just coming over to leave you some lunch. Are you on your way now? Scott responded almost immediately. Yeah, but I won't go if you're not okay with it. Finn's mind wandered to a memory. Scott's voice echoed in her head. Hey, remember when you were pushing to join the investigation on the Cold Lake murders? Obviously, it wasn't possible, but if you hadn't been so stubborn, I don't think I would have solved the case. Scott's words had lingered. I always had a feeling you were stopping by the station just to sneak a peek at the files. That's why I told the other officers not to let you in. So, you started coming to my house instead, when I wasn't around. The memory shifted to a specific moment. That file wasn't even supposed to be sent to my email. It was against protocol. Then you spotted this one detail that everyone else missed, and everything clicked. Scott's voice softened in her mind. I was upset back then, because you never seemed to have time for me when you were on a tough case. But now I understand that's just who you are. When you want to know something, you'll do whatever it takes. I can't keep anything from you, because you'll always find out somehow. That's why I never changed my passwords. I knew you'd keep coming back. His final words echoed like a warning. You're probably going to hate me for this. Isaac often wondered what happened to the people left behind when those they loved were gone. Isaac Inoue, right? That's your full name, a voice asked. Your aunt's coming to pick you up, so hang tight for a bit, the officer reassured him. Isaac's thoughts drifted back. When his father died, he hadn't shed a single tear. Yet, he vividly remembered Isaac crying for his mother, the same mother Noah had once claimed was abusive and mad. A memory surfaced. Oh my God! Did your father do this? Noah, call the police. Don't be scared, sweetie. Everything's going to be all right. A woman's voice had soothed him. But it hadn't been all right. Isaac had scoured the internet countless times, searching for anything about his father's murder, but there was nothing. No trial had been held for his father. Instead, the trial he'd testified in was for Isaac's mother's murder. He had become a witness against Noah, realizing too late that Noah had lied about everything. He'd mixed Isaac up with Noah in his memories. Noah, who had acted like an abused son wandering in the woods, a classic ploy to gain trust. He'd never mentioned having a stepbrother. Isaac remembered the courtroom. You did see him with bruises and scratches, correct? The prosecutor had pressed. But they were from hunting, Isaac had stammered. But he did say his stepmother was hurting him, didn't he? I don't recall. You don't recall? But you mentioned that during interrogation. Objection, Your Honor. The prosecution is leading the witness. Overruled. Miss Lewis, during the interrogation you stated Noah was being abused by his mother. Is that correct? Yes, she had admitted reluctantly. Because of Isaac's testimony, Noah had received a lighter sentence. The weight of guilt bore heavily on Isaac. How do you live with knowing you've caused someone else pain? Does Noah resent me? If I apologized, would it even matter? But deeper questions loomed. What if he finds out that I remember everything? How will I face him? Isaac stayed close to him, not because of the lie he told himself, that he wanted to remember everything, but because he felt better when Isaac was around. It wasn't a feeling he experienced often, not since Noah. Isaac reminded him of Noah, or at least the version of Noah he wished had existed, the one who truly cared for him. But it was selfish to wish for such a thing. Whatever this is between us, it probably isn't real, built on lies. Still, I want to believe that some of it is. Isaac, there's something I need to tell you.
Sure.
Just keep still, Isaac whispered. Let's stay like this a bit longer. Okay, he agreed softly. Let's talk about it another time. Later, Isaac recalled a conversation at the shop. You sent her flowers? What are you, her admirer or something? Someone had teased. Oh, no, he had replied quickly. As compensation. My last helper messed up her order. Geez, how do you mess up such simple instructions? I am really sorry, ma'am, the helper had stammered. Dumb or what? The girl kept going on about posting a review online, even though we refunded her. Isaac couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that lingered. He explained, I had to think of something to make it up to her. I got her address and had my helper deliver the flowers. A pause followed as he added, it feels unreal to know she was murdered. You never really know when your time will come. The question arose, did you fire that helper after the mistake? Yes, he admitted. It wasn't a hard decision. He messed up a lot, and there were issues with missing inventory while he worked for me. If it helps your case, I can give you his name. That would be a big help. Thanks, came the reply. One last thing, why tulips? Because they're special, he said with a soft smile. I grow them myself. This revelation sparked a discussion. If he's growing them himself, does that mean he owns a greenhouse? Maybe, another voice added. I've heard tulips only bloom in season. Some people pre-cool the bulbs to force them to flower earlier. That's interesting, someone noted, but let's stick to what's relevant to the case. The investigation took a sharp turn as profiles came into focus. Cole Fisher is a convicted criminal, mostly for sexual and physical assault, one team member shared. As for Dale Morandi, the real Dale, he's a 58-year-old florist who owns the shop. The person we interviewed was definitely an imposter. If we track down his real identity and records, we might be able to link him to the case, another chimed in. Cole, on the other hand, is a strong suspect, someone emphasized. He knew where she lived, and he's a registered sex offender. It's not uncommon for offenders like him to escalate from assault to murder. He even has a potential motive, which could explain why the third victim was killed more brutally. With his history of physical assaults, he seems capable of a crime of passion, a voice speculated. But if there are two killers, it changes everything. The first two murders were clean and precise, unlike the third one. There's no clear motive for those, and they weren't sexually driven or fueled by anger. Until we have solid evidence of another suspect, the chief won't believe us, someone said grimly. For now, Cole is the prime suspect for all three murders. The conversation shifted to the flower shop lead. This is progress, someone remarked. I wasn't confident about the lead at first, but it feels like everything's starting to connect. Everything's been coming together since Dale entered the picture, another noted.
Why?
Do you think he hasn't been cooperative enough? That's the thing, came the reply. He's been too cooperative. He answers everything without hesitation and even offers extra information we didn't ask for. If Dale's the second killer, it's almost like he's subtly pointing fingers at himself. Attention turned to the weapon used. The knife for the third victim was double-edged, but the wound patterns are wider than what a regular dagger would make, someone analyzed. We need the murder weapon, another declared firmly. Finn was asked how the new office and schedule were going. It's a good thing Isaac's team is on the day shift too. You both can still go home together, someone remarked. If you need any help with anything, just let me know. Finn responded, You've done so much for us already. I don't want to trouble you anymore. Oh, come on, it's no big deal, the other person insisted. Besides, I really can't afford to lose another good agent this month. The whole hiring process is such a pain. They continued, try not to feel bad about the empty station beside you. We haven't found a replacement for Eva yet. Eva quit and moved to a new place without saying goodbye, Finn replied. Should I have Stack transferred over to us? The conversation shifted to Isaac. What she couldn't talk to me about is probably connected to Isaac's past. Maybe she knows what his life was like after everything that happened. Are you waiting for Isaac? Finn was asked. He just went to meet someone. He didn't want me to go home alone, so he told me to wait here until he gets back, came the response. The concern grew. How long are you going to be sitting here alone? He should have just brought you home instead of making you wait here. Well, there was hesitation. Actually, I lied. I just wanted to see where you live. The other person seemed surprised. No need to worry, my boyfriend's on his way to pick me up, they reassured. But really, you didn't have to. I'm fine waiting for Isaac. I don't want you to put yourself at risk just for me, Finn added. Then, the conversation took a turn. At first, I never understood why the manager wouldn't give up on you. I always thought you were just a snob who didn't care about anyone. You're kind of eccentric, your interests are odd, and you like being alone most of the time. But the more time I spend with you, the more I get it. What you did for Eva was awesome. You're awesome. I'm really happy I got to know that side of you. Finn shyly replied, I didn't really do much. Eva didn't see it that way, came the response. She was really grateful. It's just too bad she had to quit. Seems like Isaac's been good for you, someone observed. You've changed a lot since you started dating. You're much more expressive and approachable now. I wasn't sure about him at first, but I'm glad I was wrong. He's been taking great care of you. The conversation shifted to the Evans family. Oh, right, the Evans. They still live there, but they're hardly ever around. The mom's been in the hospital for a long time. The son just comes by after work to grab clothes. Poor kid. If you're going there, could you tell them they're 3 months behind on rent? The person continued. I'm losing money here. She's staying in room 324. You still have about 30 minutes. Visiting hours end at 6 p.m. Thanks. The scene then shifted to a tense conversation. He just sent money, Ma. It feels wrong to ask for more already. What are you saying? Came the sharp response. He owes me big time. Most of my pension was spent on him. I paid for his schooling, fed him, and let him stay in my house. I even let him use your dad's surname. And now he can't even visit. Ma, you're not exactly on good terms with him, someone reminded. You kicked him out a long time ago. He's nothing but an ungrateful bastard. All he gave us was trouble and disgrace. Now it felt like they were begging for scraps. It would have been better if Isaac had been taken instead of her sister. Maybe the world would be better off. Just try not to stress over him too much, okay? Someone said, attempting to comfort. It's not like he's totally forgotten us. He still helps out, even if he doesn't want to show up. I'm going home to get some things done at the house. I'll come back early tomorrow morning, they continued, before pausing. Can I help you? The shock in the air was palpable. You? What the hell are you doing here? A voice screamed in anger. You murderers! Annie coughed, furious. How dare you, cough, come here. You destroyed our lives, cough you, and that monster. You children from hell.
Ma. Stop it.
What are you saying? Came a frantic cry. Murderers! A loud scream followed. Why won't she pick up? Someone entered with a sarcastic tone. Hey, did you wait long? Ready for the questioning. Just kidding. The arrest thing was a bluff. Can't believe you fell for it. I didn't, and that's not why I'm here, came the reply. Do you think it's him? The person asked. I know you've been investigating on your own and suspect him, they continued. I can't tell for sure just by looking, but I doubt you'd ever forget the face of your mother's killer. So, do you think it's Noah? They pressed. Wow, you're actually bringing it up so casually like that, came the response. My bad. I thought you'd appreciate getting right to the point. He does resemble him. I asked around, but he's got a different name, they added. Yep, he's posing as someone else. Wait a sec, did you call me all the way here just to confirm if that florist is Noah? He's a possible suspect, and we're also investigating him for identity fraud, the response came. Guess you believe me now, huh? Never said I didn't. I'm considering every possibility, came the calm reply. Am I getting involved in this case? You know, Finn isn't the only one who knows Noah that well, the person remarked. So, you're bringing me into the case instead of her? We can make sure she's safe this way. Don't you want that? They paused. Plus, I could keep an eye on you to make sure you don't do anything that'll screw up my investigation. I'm under no obligation to cooperate with you, came the sharp response. Right. How about we strike a deal? The tension was high. How do you live with the fact that you are responsible for someone else's pain? Turns out I've hurt a lot more people than I thought, the other person replied, their voice filled with regret. My cousin called and told me I'd find you here, they said, sounding defeated. Things didn't turn out all right, Finn. Nothing went all right. Isaac was urged to open up more, but it seemed he was keeping to himself. His therapist hoped he would soon share more. It could help him feel better. The session was coming to an end, with a reminder not to forget the next appointment. They couldn't keep going in and out of detention. Isaac was told to take care of himself. As Isaac left, someone sarcastically asked why he bothered going to school, only to end up back in detention. They mocked him, questioning what his next violation would be, even suggesting he might as well kill someone to get locked up for good like his brother, who was raised by his crazy mother. A fight soon broke out, with shouts and insults exchanged. One person yelled, "Die," while the others urged Isaac to fight back, making cruel remarks about his family. A teacher intervened, but the tension was palpable. Isaac was caught in the middle, but no one seemed to care much about what was happening. Later, someone asked Isaac if he was okay after drinking something that had a strange effect on him. A voice expressed concern, but Isaac was told it was part of a cleanse and that he'd feel better soon. It seemed like things were spiraling out of control. At home, there was more conflict. Isaac was told to take out the trash, but he couldn't. He had work. He was chastised for talking back and threatened to be kicked out if he didn't follow orders. The situation was tense, with more emotional exchanges and blame being thrown around. The conversation shifted to Noah's early release, which had come as a shock. It seemed like Noah had been released for good behavior, but it was clear that this didn't sit right with Isaac. He was angry at how the system worked, feeling that Noah had faked it, and was left with resentment that Finn could continue living a normal life. Isaac was told that he owed an apology for his actions, but he rejected the idea, frustrated by the hypocrisy around him. He was told that he was seen as the monster, but he refused to back down, calling out those who had wronged him. The conversation grew heated, with insults being exchanged. Isaac felt that the justice system had failed him. Noah had barely served time for the crimes committed, and the trial hadn't even mentioned the death of his father, which could have influenced Noah's sentence. Isaac had always struggled with the guilt of not being able to save his mother. The weight of his inaction haunted him. He could have stopped the violence, could have run away, but instead, he remained silent, unwilling to betray the person who had saved him from his abusive father. He was filled with anger and confusion, questioning why he hadn't done more, wondering why he hadn't taken action when he had the chance. As the pain of those choices resurfaced, Isaac was overwhelmed with shame, feeling like a coward for not saving her. It wasn't just him. There had been others present too, but no one had done anything. The guilt was unbearable. He wanted to say something to ease Isaac's burden, to somehow take the weight off his shoulders, but words failed him. The night was growing late, and Isaac decided to take Isaac home. He told him not to wander around, to lock the doors, but then shrugged it off, giving him the freedom to do whatever he wanted. Later, Isaac's thoughts turned to the past. He remembered tying the rope, the moment when everything went wrong. The memory of his mother still alive, but taken by Noah's command, haunted him. He had been waiting for Isaac to remember, wondering if he had ever truly forgotten. Now that the memory had surfaced, Isaac didn't know what to say. Isaac suggested putting off the conversation for the next day, but as the weight of the situation hit, Isaac realized that perhaps this was the moment of reckoning. His emotions were raw, and as Isaac sobbed, he began to worry that Isaac might want to hurt him for what he had done. Isaac's tears seemed to ignite a different side of Isaac, one that didn't know how to deal with the situation, not wanting to confront the pain right then. He was sorry, so sorry for not remembering sooner, for what he had done. He didn't want to do it, but now it was too late to take it back. Isaac continued to cry, and Isaac couldn't handle the sound of it. He wanted Isaac to stop, but the tears wouldn't stop. The guilt was consuming both of them, and Isaac was left wondering why it wouldn't end, why Isaac couldn't stop crying, and whether they could ever escape the weight of the past. Isaac woke up to a soft voice, someone checking on him. They had considered moving him to the bedroom, but didn't want to disturb his sleep. The air felt heavy, and there was a question about the smoke outside. Isaac was silent, lost in thought, before a deep question broke the silence. "Do you hate me?" Isaac asked, his voice trembling. He wondered if the person would abandon him if he admitted the truth. The weight of the past was crushing, and the anger built up inside him felt uncontrollable. Isaac spoke of his deep frustrations, the people who lived without struggle, without pain, without having to fight for survival. They had everything handed to them, and yet had the audacity to offer advice, as if it were simple to just get help. It angered him that they couldn't understand the depths of what he had been through, the things he had been forced to endure. Those privileged people had never experienced real pain. He then reflected on how unfair life felt. Isaac had to pay for everything with his suffering, while others just moved on with their lives, never even glancing back. He had been consumed by hatred and thought about finding some way to even the score, to give meaning to all the torment he had experienced. The idea of killing both of them, the ones who had hurt him, seemed to linger in his mind. He wondered if they would beg for their lives. But in the back of his mind, he knew he didn't believe in fate or grand purposes. The actions of people, good or bad, shaped the outcome, not some grand design. Still, Isaac was tempted to end it all and end his suffering. He expressed his hopelessness, saying that if he had to die, he wouldn't mind if the person standing in front of him was the one to end it. The thought of facing life's consequences was too much to bear. He questioned whether they could help him, or if this was all just an escape from the reality of what he had done. But the other person pleaded with Isaac to let go of the past, to realize that none of it was his fault. The words felt like a lifeline, but Isaac couldn't let go. He had lived for so long with hatred, focused on getting revenge, that he didn't know who he would be without it. He confessed that if he removed the ones who had wronged him, he didn't know what would be left. Without them, there was no purpose, no reason to keep going. Isaac needed the other person to stay, to help him find a way forward. The proposal to kill Noah, to end it all and run away together, seemed like a temporary solution to the ache inside. But there was another offer, a deal to join forces in solving the case. The other person would provide information on Noah, whether he turned out to be the mastermind or not. Isaac didn't believe it would be enough, and the idea of trusting someone else seemed impossible. But the promise of information and the opportunity to finally see Noah face justice made him hesitate. The other person swore that if Noah was behind everything, they would make sure he would never hurt anyone again. The weight of the choice hung in the air as Isaac stood at a crossroads between revenge and the possibility of something better. Isaac was confused, questioning why he was being told all of this. He knew something involving Noah was at play, and while he doubted the sincerity of the person's feelings for Finn, he understood that they cared about her. They were asking him to put aside whatever was happening, for both his sake and hers. The last thing they wanted was for him to end up like his brother. Isaac couldn't help but wonder why everyone seemed to think they could decide for him. It felt as if others were making choices on his behalf. His frustration grew as he realized he had been dragged into this situation against his will, and he found himself questioning the validity of the whole thing. The surveillance operation had been going on for hours, and Isaac couldn't see the point. He asked why they weren't focusing on something that could actually help with the case. But the other person, remaining calm, insisted that this wasn't just time wasted. It would take a whole week of this. Isaac, however, was growing more annoyed. He hadn't agreed to their deal just to sit around and observe. Moreover, he couldn't keep up with this every day. He needed to watch over Finn. But the person reassured him that someone else had been assigned to look after her when he wasn't around. Isaac was shocked to hear that Finn was under surveillance too. The conversation shifted as they started discussing a suspect, Dale. The person confirmed that he was there, noting the guy from the noodle shop, whom Isaac had seen often while grabbing takeout. As they spoke about Dale's routine and background, they began speculating that he might be the second killer, pointing out inconsistencies in the murder methods. Isaac was told that Dale had been observed for days, consistently sticking to the same schedule. His past, including criminal records and a history of violence, made him a prime suspect with a possible motive. The fact that he used to work for Noah, serving as a delivery guy and sales clerk, made it even more suspicious, especially since the last victim was a customer of theirs. The conversation then turned toward Noah. Isaac was asked how he thought Noah could get away with the murders, but Isaac was unsure. The other person posed a hypothetical situation. If Noah were guilty, how would he avoid getting caught? Isaac speculated that Noah might frame someone else or manipulate them into providing an alibi. They recalled how Noah had staged his mother's murder to appear like a burglary and had tricked Finn into lying to the police for him. This led to the difficult question: did Isaac really believe Finn was just manipulated by Noah, or was she a willing accomplice in his crimes? Isaac was left to confront this uncomfortable possibility, unsure how to respond. Isaac was still grappling with the weight of his past, sharing with the other person why he chose to become a detective. It all stemmed from that fateful night and his lingering guilt. He explained that Finn used to frequent the station when she was younger, where he first met her. She was always wearing ill-fitting clothes, and her thin frame and bruises were hard to ignore. Despite the obvious signs of abuse, a welfare check at her house didn't show anything, and the authorities ignored her after that. Isaac admitted that deep down, he knew something was wrong. He regretted not pushing her to talk or taking action. Years later, when he was finally assigned to that station, Finn had stopped coming around. The next time he saw her, it was already too late. The person's response, though blunt, wasn't lost on Isaac. It did, in a way, sound like he was partly to blame. They shared a brief moment of agreement, with Isaac's bitterness rising as they continued discussing the past. He pointed out the failures of the police, particularly how detectives convinced Finn not to speak about her father's murder to avoid exposing their own incompetence. They had also coerced her into becoming a witness against Noah, promising not to charge her for her involvement in Isaac's mother's death. But, despite the offer, she had agreed to testify for reasons of her own, not realizing how it would affect the future. Isaac listened, conflicted about Finn's role in the situation. He acknowledged that she had acted with good intentions, giving honest answers based on what she knew, but the twisted outcome was beyond her control. The conversation then shifted to a deeper understanding of how things could get distorted in court, but Isaac's frustration was clear. He didn't know what more he could say. Finn was just a kid at the time. They all were. The other person pressed on, trying to reach some understanding. Isaac admitted that Finn had been getting better, starting to recover from the grief of losing her second husband, only to have her life taken from her so suddenly. The pain of watching it unfold in front of him was still fresh, and Isaac's bitterness was palpable as he questioned the other person's assumption that he was conflicted. Finally, Isaac ended the conversation, stating that they were done for the day. He asked to be dropped off, preferring to walk the rest of the way. Before parting ways, the person revealed that they had asked a friend to help with Isaac's background check and that the friend had vouched for him, even mentioning that Eva had said Isaac was a good person at heart, though he had a history of violence. Isaac wasn't sure how to react to this revelation, still caught in the complexities of his own feelings and the painful past that continued to haunt him. Isaac had always admired the person he was talking about, especially in school. He was the one who stood up to the bullies, someone who stepped in when nobody else did. As Isaac realized who the person truly was, he thought he could be the one to help him, but he acknowledged that blackmailing him had been a step too far. He then shifted the conversation, asking if the other person had checked their email, as he had sent over the files. Though the records didn't look great, he pleaded with them not to judge the person based solely on that. Isaac insisted that there was more to the story, explaining that the person had saved his life once, which is why he had helped him find Finn. He was confident the person's intentions were good and asked that they not stand in the way of their love. The other person, however, wasn't so easily swayed. They had been going through Isaac's records and, unsurprisingly, they painted a picture of him being a troublemaker. He had been in and out of detention and even spent a few nights in jail for minor offenses, one of which included an incident where he had beaten up a guy, the son of the old lady he had called Grandma. Isaac had claimed it was because the guy had been disrespecting his mother, and it seemed like Isaac had a vigilante streak. The person then tried to steer Isaac in a different direction, warning him not to throw his life away over Noah and not to end up like him. They genuinely believed Isaac could do better if he moved on and focused on something more positive. Isaac, however, dismissed this, making it clear he wasn't asking for redemption or sympathy for his mother's death. He wasn't interested in being part of anyone's redemption project. The other person, however, couldn't hold back, pointing out how blunt Isaac was. They confessed that, honestly, they didn't know why they were doing this either. But what mattered was that the person Isaac cared about had chosen him then, and was choosing him again now. They trusted that she was better at reading people than they were, and reminded Isaac that he wasn't meant to destroy. He was meant to protect the ones he cared about. With that, the other person left Isaac with a final reminder: don't lose sight of that. Isaac was left standing there, absorbing the weight of the words. He finally admitted, "Yeah, I'm home." It seemed like Marco was going to be driving Isaac home for a while, which didn't sit well with him. Isaac couldn't believe that Scott had actually gotten him involved in the investigation. He suspected it was just an excuse to make sure he behaved. Isaac asked if they had a suspect in the serial killings, but the other person responded that they hadn't spoken to Scott properly yet. It was still awkward between them. However, there were two suspects, suggesting there could be two killers. Isaac then asked if one of the suspects might be a florist, prompting the other person to confirm they were referring to Dale, someone Isaac had met at the noodle shop. He had introduced himself, but hadn't mentioned it to Isaac yet, since he wanted to confirm something. Isaac suspected that Dale might be Noah, but he wasn't entirely sure. It was mostly just a gut feeling. The fact that Scott had pulled Isaac into the investigation seemed to confirm it, though. The other person agreed that Isaac's suspicions were probably right, noting that Scott was already checking if they were the same person. They saw how hanging around with Dale might work in their favor, but if it was confirmed that Dale and Noah were the same person, they needed to act fast before the police did. Proving they were the same person was one thing, but proving that Dale was the killer was another issue. The person mentioned that, as far as they knew, there wasn't solid evidence to link him to the murders yet, so Isaac didn't need to worry too much for now. Isaac chuckled, almost feeling surreal about the situation. It was wild to think they were casually planning to kill someone. He sarcastically remarked about how it seemed like Noah had really messed with their heads, and the other person agreed, noticing how Isaac was talking about it so enthusiastically, almost as if he wasn't fazed by it at all. They even joked about how their talks with Noah, when they were planning the murders, were probably similar. Isaac admitted he didn't remember much about the planning. He even wondered aloud if he had given Noah the idea to begin with, but the other person dismissed the thought, saying it didn't matter now. What mattered was committing fully to the plan if Isaac really wanted to make things right. The conversation then shifted to the idea of Isaac descending into madness, and he reflected on how, in the case of Noah, the first kill was what triggered his thirst for more. Isaac had unknowingly given him that opportunity, and it was that first murder that set everything in motion. The person reminded Isaac that he needed to be absolutely sure about what they were planning. Hesitating could cause everything to fall apart. If Isaac let himself kill Noah, there was one thing the person wanted to know: would Isaac end up going down the same path? The conversation shifted to the subject of Noah, and the person asked Isaac what exactly Noah had been to him. Isaac quietly admitted, "He was my hero." The conversation continued, with the other person asking if Noah was going to be the one taking Isaac home now. Isaac was reluctant, explaining that it was only for a little while, and it would depend on when Scott said so. The other person couldn't believe Isaac knew a detective and was friends with cops, joking that he was like a main character in a drama, almost like a VIP. However, Isaac's situation didn't seem normal, and the person grew concerned, asking if everything was all right. They wondered if Isaac was in danger now that someone else was watching over him. Isaac reassured them, saying that he wasn't in danger, though guys could sometimes get overly protective. They shifted topics, and the other person suggested they go eat at the noodle shop they had passed by before, saying it was one of the best places they'd been to. Isaac confirmed he'd been back a couple of times, mentioning how many items on the menu he still wanted to try. However, he advised against going there alone, hinting that something felt off about the place. When asked why, Isaac hesitated, then confessed he thought the girl who worked there might be a psychopath. The other person laughed it off, saying some things never changed. Isaac tried to convince them he was serious, but the other person playfully dismissed it. As they prepared to leave, the other person mentioned they had something left in their locker. A bit later, a voice interrupted, asking if they were Finn's manager, seeking to know when Finn's shift ended. The person revealed Finn had left a while ago, and the questioner admitted they were upset, realizing Finn had ditched them. They were worried Scott would be angry. In a more personal moment, the questioner asked, "You were the one from the noodle shop last time, right?" The tone shifted again when the person mentioned Finn had been their hero. Then, with a softer voice, they asked, "How about me? What am I to you, Finn?" Finn hesitated and responded, "You are someone I want to protect." The moment felt intense, but the light-hearted atmosphere returned when the other person jokingly dismissed any thoughts of Finn cheating on Isaac. The person expressed regret, saying they didn't expect the situation to unfold like this. They mentioned they'd drive around to find her if she didn't go straight home, but quickly reassured the other person that they already knew where she was. The other person suggested heading to Cole's place instead. The conversation then turned to an intense exchange, where one person grew frustrated, accusing the other of making things worse and acting like it was some kind of soap opera. They expressed their anger, revealing that they'd once had ideas for how to handle the situation, implying that if they'd gone through with it and killed Noah, she would have been the one to take the fall. They found it disturbing how easily people like her were manipulated. The person's frustration deepened, and they warned that they were already close to losing their temper, urging the other not to push them further. They accused the person of putting her through the same hell again, suggesting that maybe she was right to call them a psychopath. They reflected bitterly on how they had become a monster, possibly because they were refusing to see things clearly. There was a painful realization that they were consumed with hatred for Noah, wishing that he would suffer, even though deep down, they knew that was not a healthy thought. The fear of being hurt again loomed large, and they trembled, worried for her safety, knowing she was going through the same torment as before. They begged for help, urgently requesting that the other person hurry and save her, acknowledging their guilt for getting her involved in the first place. There was an intense apology as they expressed their regret for not knowing about her past and what she had been through. They mourned the fact that she was reliving her worst nightmares to save them. They felt helpless, unable to change what had happened, and pleaded for the other to act quickly. In the midst of this, they reflected on how people often saw them as the villain, never bothering to understand the deeper reasons behind their actions. They pointed out that if Noah was killed, the consequences would be severe, and they would be taken away as well. The realization struck that their own actions had led to more death, which felt worse than putting their own life at risk. They confessed to feeling like they had become just like the people they once despised. Then, with a raw honesty, they admitted that they only wanted to make Isaac happy, not out of goodness, but because they were no longer pretending to care. They acknowledged that everything they did, the messed-up reactions, were just the fallout from Noah destroying their life. They had stopped pretending to be a good person, doing whatever they wanted without concern for the consequences. The conversation shifted, with one person clarifying that they didn't mean to imply anything too serious. The other brushed it off, noting that it didn't matter anymore. They observed that Finn was following through with something, and it seemed like that meant a victory for them. They reflected on how Finn might believe she despises Noah, but deep down, there was an attachment to him that she probably didn't even fully understand herself. After all, Noah had saved her from her father. There was something strange about their connection, and even though Finn acted tough, her emotions often betrayed her. They speculated about how Finn would handle things when she faced Noah again, unsure of what her real intentions were. But there was a sense that whatever she did, it would be for the sake of the people she cared about. Despite what she believed to be her responsibility, the truth was that Finn was the one who needed saving. The conversation then turned to the next steps. One person reminded the other not to forget their end of the deal. The plan was for Finn to be taken away from the current situation, moved to a new place far from the chaos, until everything was resolved. They vowed to help catch Noah, but the promise was conditional on Noah being locked away for good. Afterward, they would stay out of Finn's life and not interfere with anyone anymore. Curiosity arose about what had changed the other person's mind. Was this the moment of forgiveness, the turning point where they'd finally do the right thing? However, they rejected the idea of a dramatic closure, claiming that life wasn't like a cheesy TV drama. The events of that night would always be a part of them, and no amount of forgiveness would change that. They accepted that moving on wasn't truly possible, and no matter how hard they tried, they would never live like everyone else. Finn understood this, probably better than anyone. Still, they wished to see her try and prove them wrong. With a final remark, they wished good luck with the move. Finn was asked if she was there to learn about floristry, and she responded with a thoughtful interest in flowers. The conversation drifted into the language of flowers, where each bloom symbolized something unique: white lilies for purity and innocence, daffodils for rebirth and new beginnings, and the classic red rose for love and passion. The person speaking apologized for rambling, but Finn assured them it wasn't weird at all. In fact, it was one of the reasons she had come, to listen to others talk about their passions. She added playfully that if they didn't have a reason for being there, she might think they just wanted an excuse to see her. As the conversation continued, Finn mentioned that she was reminded of someone who shared the same interest in flowers. Curious, she asked why there was no tulip display. The other person revealed they grew most of their flowers in a greenhouse and invited Finn to visit sometime. She was surprised but intrigued by their passion for something so delicate and fragile. It felt unusual, considering what she knew about them. The conversation turned to a more personal reflection about Noah. Despite his dark nature, there was something about his unexpected fascination with flowers that made him even more intriguing. Finn mused that people were bundles of contradictions, and even though Noah had some odd interests, it made him whole in some way. She acknowledged that, for a time, talking about the things Noah loved made her feel like she mattered, something she had never felt with her father. The subject shifted when the other person teasingly asked about Finn's boyfriend. She was taken aback, and he admitted he had just assumed. Finn was somewhat defensive about her personal life, saying she didn't really enjoy talking about it. She changed the topic, revealing she was more into darker subjects, particularly murder. Not because of the thrill it gave someone, but because of the reasons behind it, what drove a person to take such an extreme step. She wondered whether the reasons even mattered in the end, or if it was just a justification for the act itself. The other person seemed to understand, and Finn was taken aback by their response. They agreed with her, saying it wasn't just the act itself but what it represented, the layers, and the purpose behind it. There was something beautiful in that darkness. And as they spoke, Finn felt that this connection, their shared understanding, was something rare. They didn't think she was crazy for seeing things the way others couldn't. In that moment, they both seemed to understand each other in a way that felt profound. Finn was being told that she was honest, more so than anyone else would dare to be. The person speaking understood the constant questions in her mind, the ones that wouldn't leave her alone. They admitted to having those questions too, sometimes still feeling the need for answers. They confessed they had tried to find the answers, once or twice, and in the process, lost track of time because it was thrilling and consuming. It wasn't just about what was shown to them. It was about the experience itself. What they saw was everything they couldn't stop wanting to see. People like them could see the world for what it really was, and in that moment, they made Finn feel special. They told her that they were the same, but she firmly disagreed, insisting they were not the same and to stop. The other person acknowledged getting carried away, claiming they were just messing with her. They confessed that they had been drawn to the way Finn's eyes lit up while she was talking and had wondered how much brighter that could get. Apologizing for making her uncomfortable, they noted that they would have liked to satisfy her curiosity, but weren't a murderer. Instead, they understood the need for a true connection, to talk about something passionate without holding back. They shared a memory of someone who had once supported their love for floristry and who believed in them. Without that support, they implied they might not even have the job they had now. Finn couldn't help but wonder if they were implying that they wouldn't have committed a crime if no one had encouraged them. Trying to keep things light, the person invited Finn to talk anytime, offering to show her their greenhouse. They joked that while they couldn't promise to encourage anything like murder, they would share their passion for flowers. Finn replied, saying it sounded like a fun date, expressing interest in seeing the tulips the person was growing. Just then, someone else appeared, asking if they were the one from before. The newcomer mentioned a lost cat and that they were there to pick up their girlfriend.